Hello guys, Chris here and welcome back to another video. In this one, my friends, I'm gonna be testing the GTX 1660 Ti in Assassin's Creed Valhalla using the latest Nvidia drivers, of course, for 57.30. This one is the Zotac AMP edition of the card. I'm just gonna push it like 50 megahertz here and 100 megahertz here. I'm running it with Ryzen 7 3700X and 16 gigs of RAM, as you can see right there. You should get the same FPS with something like a Ryzen 3 3100. By the way, you don't need a 3700X. This game is not really that CPU intensive. It is, however, very GPU intensive. Okay, we're gonna test this one at 1080p as well as 1440p resolution using 100% resolution scale, of course, and the medium and high settings. Okay, starting off with the medium settings, this is it. I'm just gonna disable motion blur right here. And let me tell you guys right away, I was super impressed because the game actually defaulted to high settings at first when I started this game with the 1660 Ti, and I had no intention of actually testing it on medium settings, but it's extremely demanding. I saw like down to 30 something FPS at high settings 1080p, so I just decided to test it here at the medium settings as well, at both 1080p and 1440p. So here we go, let's raid this area once again. We're seeing down to the 40s already. Like, this is 1080p medium settings. Now, granted that the game does look quite impressive at these settings, it looks good, and I would totally play like this absolutely fine, no problems, but this is a 1660 Ti that we're talking about, and it can't reach 60 plus FPS all of the time. Okay, explosion there. And I actually saw that this game will drop from 60 FPS even at low settings with this GPU. So, of course, you shouldn't really play on low settings because it looks really bad. If you have other option to play at medium settings with decent FPS, like this, you know, I strongly recommend you to do so because it's gonna be a way better experience visually, you know, not in terms of FPS, but it's still smooth. It still gets a 60 FPS average with this GPU at the 1080p resolution. Quite unimpressive. Again, I gotta say, the game desperately needs an optimization patch in my opinion. It's totally playable though, don't get me wrong. Just coming into this, I was expecting like these frames at high settings, not medium settings. So it just goes to show you that the 1660 Ti is really struggling here. This usually has no problems playing games at 1440p, and it is struggling at 1080p medium settings. I just can't really wrap my head around it, my friends. At least, oh god, of course, I'm on fire once again. Well, I didn't really get on fire. No, it's just my arrow. Okay, that's good. Okay. Anyways, in town areas, this is what you should expect, like 50 to 60 FPS. Over here, it seems to be like the most intensive area in this town, at least. So it gets down into the 40s. Not bad, you know, it's playable, as I told you. It's completely playable, especially for a single-player title. You don't need 60 plus all of the time, but it sucks to know that 60 plus is not really doable at 1080p with a 1660 Ti. So I find that very weird, guys. Very weird indeed. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and grab this horse right here. We're gonna see the FPS outside of town in city areas. It should be way smoother. As you can see, it's reaching 70 FPS already. So if you want to just roam around the map and explore things, you can do it at 60 plus FPS on medium settings. By the way, for those of you that want to know the clock speeds of this GPU, it's running at 2010 megahertz on the GPU core clock and 6101 megahertz on the memory clock right there. Alright, here we go. 2560 by 1440 resolution, 100% resolution scale with the same medium settings without motion blur. Alright, there we go. Let's start counting our frames. Open the sail. Let's raid that town once again. So over here in the sea, you can expect pretty smooth FPS, so in the 50s, not too bad. The game looks gorgeous at medium settings, 1440p resolution, by the way. Well, if you have a 24-inch monitor at 1080p, it will look the same basically. I'm just running a 32-inch monitor, so it only looks good at 1440p, of course, with its native resolution. Okay, so yeah, this is not too bad. It dropped into the 30s there, but it's still playable, I guess. Again, it's a single-player title. You don't really need 60 plus FPS all of the time, or you don't even need it at all. Like, you don't need to reach 60, in my opinion, to have a playable and great experience experience, enjoyable one in Assassin's Creed Valhalla or any other single-player title for that matter. It helps in first-person shooters especially. It runs well if you have a 1440p monitor with one of these GPUs. You can still play the game absolutely fine. Remember that town areas are the most intensive ones, so if you get out of a town and go explore the world, you can get more FPS, of course, that's obvious. And I will definitely not play on low settings, by the way, because the game just looks really bad on low. If you have something like a GTX 1050 Ti, well, you got no other option than playing on low settings to achieve 30 plus FPS, but you know what? As this performs so well on medium settings, I will definitely play like this. Let's go away now, and can we reach 60 FPS here outside of towns? I don't really think so. Maybe if you overclock your 1660 Ti further than what I did, those extra 50 megahertz. But yeah, if you overclock it, it might touch 60 FPS at times, but as you could see there, it did drop into the 40s, so it's not really that smooth, but it's very playable still. Alright, here we go, just restarted the game. 1080p resolution, 100% resolution scale with the high settings preset. Just gonna disable motion blur once again. Let's load the game. So we're getting 60s here in the middle of the scene, not too bad. We're gonna start counting the frames once again. 1% lows are already at 40 because of those micro stutters in the frame time graph, but I can't really notice those. Whenever there are bigger spikes, of course, it's noticeable. Maybe those ones were kind of noticeable if I was just panning the mouse around, but I wasn't, so I couldn't really feel those. But anyways, let's just do this. 30s, low 30s. What is going on with this game, guys? Like, I get that this game is intensive, but less than 30 FPS with the 1660 Ti. Now, you will see decent frames in other areas, like this one right here, for example. You can get up to 50 something FPS, and in the benchmark run you'll actually get around 50 to 60 frames at high settings. But in this little town, at least look in that direction, and whenever you get out of the boat, the FPS will drop by a lot. I was definitely not expecting that. Yeah, although it's running a little bit better than, for example, an RX 580 here in this particular area right now. I don't think the 580 dropped from 30 FPS there in that area by the shore. So very underwhelming results coming from the 1660 Ti. Yeah, I don't know what's going on with this game. This needs a serious optimization patch. Once again, I already told you that, but it's obvious. Like, it shouldn't be dropping that much in some areas. Like, maybe it's the water, I don't know. If the water is broken, like in DirectX 12 in Watch Dogs 2, it might be because of that, but wow, I did not expect that. The FPS average are still pretty decent for inside of town gameplay, but it's just, why does it drop so much near the water there? I don't understand. We're gonna go there again just to check if it wasn't like a one-off, you know. I'm gonna go this way actually now. Come on, can you go there? Let's go, buddy. Okay, there we go. 31, 32. Wow. So it seems like the AMD cards are actually doing way better than Nvidia here. This is so weird. Oh my gosh. Like 26? What is this crap? Now outside, we should get closer to 60 FPS. Come over here, boy. Come over here, boy. Okay, there we go. Yeah, 50 somethings, not bad, you know, 40s again, around the same as 1440p medium. At this point, just play at 1440p. You know what, maybe there could be an option that's really intensive on Nvidia cards and not so intensive on any AMD cards, and that's what's causing this GPU to drop so much on high, but actually perform decently well at medium. Not sure about that, guys. We are now at the 1440p resolution, 100% resolution scale once again, with the same high settings and no motion blur. And yeah, so far, at least in the sea, it actually runs well, but that's normal. We're approaching that area right there, and it's slowly dropping. Yep. Yeah, guys, if it did drop at 1080p, it will obviously drop at 1440p. 26, 24. Well, this is not a good experience anymore. Just play on medium settings if you want to play at 1440p, and play on medium settings if you want to play at 1080p as well, because it's, yeah, it's just high settings is too demanding for the 1660 Ti, it seems like, at least in the current state of the game, and at least in this little area right here, because if we go in this direction, yeah, 30s, 40s sometimes, and if I ran the benchmark run, it would probably get an average above like 30 to 40 FPS. Actually, I will run the benchmark run after this benchmark here at 1440p high, just so we can see what kind of frames the benchmark run gives us compared to actual real-time gameplay. I believe it won't drop too much from 30 FPS. We saw like 20 here at 1440p high, and 1% lows are now at 20 as well. So that's why I like to test the games with real-time gameplay, as well as to make everything more interesting to watch. Why is everything red here? I don't understand. Like, suddenly everything becomes red and there are no more pine trees, there are only these. Well, there are a couple of pine trees, but it's kind of weird. Anyways, it runs okay outside of towns, but it's completely unplayable sometimes. So just don't play this game at 1440p high settings, I guess. All right, here we go. 2560 by 1440. Everything is still the same, and let's run the benchmark right here. All right, here we go. Let's start counting the frames right here. 30s, not bad. Yeah, so far we're just seeing the same as we saw like inside of that town, but outside of the beach area. So it's decent. It's showing that it's actually playable at 1440p high settings, but we know that it isn't. Let's just wait a little bit and see if it actually drops from 30 FPS. 1% lows out at 29. We haven't really seen it drop that far, but still, we saw drops as low as what, 22 FPS, 20 earlier. So yeah, I don't think the benchmark run is fully indicative of what to expect. It's probably indicative of what to expect in most scenarios, you know, because most of the times we were actually reaching 30 FPS and above. Alright, I believe it's ending, yes. Okay, so we got 36 FPS average, 27 1% lows. Over here it has 23 minimum there, that's okay. We've seen that actually playing the game's a little bit more intensive. We got slightly lower averages and lower 1% lows as well. So I'm gonna keep providing my own benchmark runs instead of the built-in ones because of that, and to keep things more entertaining as well. So thank you very much for watching this video. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you haven't already. I'll catch you guys very soon in the next one. As always, love you all. Bye-bye.